Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else who can read my mind? Who can read my mind? Who can read my mind? 'Cause it's no longer mine. Yeah. Skin a rabbit, skin a rabbit. There's a lot of people saying they were grieving about a track they were on. Skin a rabbit, skin a rabbit. Makes you wonder about the faces and the aces that have crawled up the arms. Skin a rabbit, can you turn my gold to white? Stone to stone, a needle in the eye. Skin a rabbit, skin a rabbit. There's a lot of people saying they were grieving about the track they were on. Skin a rabbit, skin a rabbit. Makes you wonder about the faces and the aces that have crawled up the arms. Skin a rabbit, can you turn my gold to white? Stone to stone, a needle in the eye. Thank you. My dear old friend, it's you we need. There's blood in the gutters and fear in the streets. How long do we have to fight for a change that never comes? Oh, in some ways it's the same. But tonight the crowd, they came. Fists in the air, candles and vigils. Cracked dreams held together with curses and wishes. How long's it been since you've been outside? How long's it been since you opened your eyes? 'Cause I've been to the light and it's all right there. And I cannot wait to get on from here. Arms bent back in the blackjack wells. Involuntary tears and the tears we felt. 'Cause it always had to get Angel Keene, where are you now? Did they bury the hate when they buried the South? You got to tell the spirit mystics of tomorrow that in some ways it's the same, but tonight the crowd they came, this and here, candles and vigils, cracked trees held together with curses and wishes. But how long's it been since you've been outside? How long's it been since you opened your eye? 'Cause I've been to the light and it's all right there, and I cannot wait to get on from here.
Thank you. So this is Chadwick Stokes. My name is Bradley, and we're a part of a band, Dispatch, and excited to be making some music for you guys.
It's a real honor to be here. We've been Bernie fans for a long time now, and really admire his courage to say what he believes all these years. It's the same thing from 30, 40 years ago. He's been saying the same thing, and finally the world caught up to him. I think maybe we do Alias now. Just kind of light it up, but then we'll end with I Mean Brave. It didn't. Na Jesu achwane kwa ta Yesu farada e. Na Jesu achwane kwa ta Yesu farada e. Ta Yesu farada e. Farada e. Ta Yesu farada e. Farada e. Na Jesu achwane kwa ta Yesu farada e. Na Jesu achwane kwa ta Yesu farada e. Ta Yesu farada e. Farada e. Ta Yesu farada e. Farada e. 'Cause you are my Kasimba.
Come on, we had one.
Nakasimba, kana makasimba, oh, oh, oh. Nakasimba, 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 kana makasimba, oh, oh, oh. Raise your head. You beat the sun, but your boys, they lie. So close to you, they dare get up, wake the two. Ooh, Elias, I see you there at work in the daytime. Do you think you could answer all the questions of the world in just one word? I think I could. But if you die, will I get word that you're gone? Or will I hear it in passing conversation? Or will I stop short and fall to the ground? Distance is short when your hand carries what your eye found. Almighty, and just one more time to see if you're really gonna be made. Just one more time to see if you're really gonna be made. Honest Emmanuel, well, you know, they're at school now, given a chance that their fathers never seen. See what's beyond Section 17. In 10 years, when you look back at your boys, will you know they've grown way taller than the tallest sugar cane in the field? But if you die, will I get word that you're gone? Will I hear it in passing conversation? Will I stop short and fall to the ground? Distance is short when your hand carries what your eye found. Hold my hand just one more time to see if you're really gonna be me. Hold my hand just one more time. Hold my hand just one more time. Hold my hand just one more time to see if you're really gonna be me. And I see your wife, and she stands stooped over by the fire outside. And I see her boys, and when they look you know I think they got their mother's eyes, 'cause she looks so proud. She looks so proud. She looks so happy. She looks so happy. She looks so proud. She looks so proud. She looks so happy. She looks so happy. But if you die, will I get word that you're gone? Or will I hear it in passing conversation? Or will I stop short and fall to the ground? Distance is short when your hand carries what your eye found. Hold my hand just one more time to see if you're really gonna be me. Hold my hand just one more time. Hold my hand just one more time to see if you're really gonna meet me. Hold my hand just one more time to see if you're really gonna meet me. So we met, Brad and I met many years ago in Vermont, Bernie's adopted state. So shout out to Vermonters who are out there. The sister state to this wonderful state of New Hampshire. We've also played Keene State before, many years ago, somewhere on this campus, in a basement somewhere. This is a song about all the troubles at our border, and we think the United States should be a much more welcoming country. To say the least. It's time to wake up. Where are faces, the train so close to where we wanna be. Keep it tight, hold your head in. There are eyes on the road that'll do us in. And I can't go back again, 'cause we don't even need rice, like we don't need water. We don't even need eyes, we don't even need God. We don't even need peace, like we don't need laughter. We don't even need guns, we don't even need war. Are you okay? That was a rough one you had the other day. Do you care for a cup of tea? It'll get you high and where you wanna be. Keep it tight, hold your head in. There are eyes on the road that'll do us in. Keep it tight, hold your head in. There are eyes on the road that'll do us in. And I can't go back again, 'cause we don't even need rice, like we don't need water. We don't even need ice, we don't even need God. We don't even need peace, like we don't need laughter. We don't even need guns, but they love their war. So pull me up hard like I was your last friend in the world, and let me down easy. Her mom trying to save that girl. You think she's alright, you think someone grabbed her knees, you think she's gonna make it. 2 days to go to the river, please. Keep it tight. There are eyes on the road that'll do us in. Keep it tight, hold your head in. There are eyes on the road that'll do us, sure to do us in. And I can't go back again, 'cause we don't even need rice, like we don't need water. We don't even need ice, we don't even need God. We don't even need peace, like we don't need laughter. We don't even need guns, but they love their war. We don't even need flags, like we don't need colors. We don't even need roads, but they life's alright. We don't even need roads, I'll see you thereafter, faster than the highest wall they'll build. Do you care for a cup of tea? It'll get you Thank you.
On my drive up, I just flew in from Denver for the afternoon to be with you guys, and Matt, who picked me up, said that he so yearns for the era when musicians and politicians are able to come up with a universal truth and a message where we all stand with more strength. And man, I mean, it's such an honor to stand here today and to make some music. I got to do that in Denver with Bernie as well. And I just really do hope that this is a time when a lot of musicians and a lot of storytellers, a lot of artists will make their voice heard. There's never been a more important time, and I just see this beautiful little one and think, like, that's what all this is about. It's for the future generations. So yeah, very much peace. Yeah, Matt. Chad and I have spent a lot of time on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, working with the youth there, and this song is called Flag. How does that feel for you? Tuning. Do you want to just capo up? That sounded right. We'd like to respectfully acknowledge the Abenaki people who have stewarded this land for the generations. You warn me and keep me here. You call us close to dispel your fear. You painted the color of peace with your hands. As the water flows north by west, they come moving, raising up their hands as the thunder calls. Welcome to the straightest tree. What flag are you? Are you flying? I have seen your kind for miles, seen your kind for miles. Great Father in the east says we'll need only white like our wagon wheels, and only as long as the day holds a blessing you will pass. He offers to us our own hands, painted lines upon our lands. Dog soldiers, don't ignite the land. What flag are you? Are you flying? I have seen your kind for miles. I have seen your kind for miles. What flag are you? Are you flying? I have seen your kind for miles. I have seen your kind for miles. We huddle to the tree and hold it with both hands. To the center we will be together as one. Frozen tears may rain in truth, the frozen tears remain. What flag are you? Are you flying? I have seen your kind for miles. I have seen your kind for miles. What flag are you? Are you flying? I have seen your kind for miles. I have seen your kind for miles. I still stand to hold you up. I still stand. I still stand to hold you up. I still stand. I still stand to hold you up. I still stand. I still stand to hold you up. I still stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
man. It's our privilege. One of the most gut-wrenching issues for us as we've toured across the country has been gun violence. And Chad and I were recording an album 3 years ago, I think. In the very last hour that we had in the recording studio, wrote a song called Dear Congress, that it's just got to be more than thoughts and prayers, and that it's so simple that 95 or 97% of our country wants common sense gun reform. So we sing this song here with more excitement and grief, I think, than ever.
No hands to warm, no bedtime stories, no lullabies, no little steps in the middle of the night. And now our nation's numb. Is this what our forefathers had in mind? What is happening in Washington? 'Cause it's not enough. Your thoughts and prayers, you send your love, you say you care, but you are not my baby. Oh, but my heart has died, standing alone in this empty room, except for my child, but she's not really there. And all the people have gone, and I want to pick her up and take her home. I can't bear to leave her here. It's not enough. Your thoughts and prayers, you send your love, you say you care, but you are not my baby. Oh, bless the child, oh, rest their souls. I'll bet those lawmakers don't know this feeling that it's not enough. Your thoughts and prayers, you send your love, you say you care, but you are not my baby. Won't you do something so that there's not more gun babies? 26, 58, 49, 14, 12, 27, 13, 32, 17.
Thank you again. We've got one more song for you. And again, let's get behind Bernie with all that we have. And let's just see for these kids and for us as well, a really different future. That would be good.
Thanks very much. A real honor and a privilege to stand on the same stage as Bernie, and we are so honored to play in front of you all who are out there, knocking on doors and doing what you can so that this country can be turned around. Thank you. You can all give yourself a round of applause for the hard work that you put in. And thanks to all Bernie's staff for helping us out and for getting us here. Thanks to Juice. Juice. was a decorated general with a heart of gold that likened him to all the stories he told of past battles won and lost and legends of old. A seasoned veteran in his own time. On the battlefield he gained respectful fame with many medals of bravery and stripes to his name. He grew a beard as soon as he could to cover the scars on his face and always urged his men on. But on the eve of a great battle with the infantry, a dream the old general tossed in his sleep and wrestled with this meaning. He awoke from the night to tell what he had seen. Walked slowly out of his tent. All the men held tall with their chests in the air, with the courage in their blood and a fire in their stare. And it was a gray morning, a day I wondered how they would fare. So the old general told them to go home. He said, I have seen the others, and I have discovered that this fight is not worth fighting. No, and I've seen their mothers, and I will no other to follow me where I'm going. So take a shower and shine your shoes. Oh, you got no time to lose. You are young man, you must be living. Yeah. Take a shower and shine your shoes. Oh, you got no time to lose. You are young man, you must be living. Go now, you are forgiven. But the men stood fast with their guns on their shoulders, not knowing what to do with his contradicting orders. The general said he would do his own duty, but he would extend it no further. The men could go as they pleased, but not a man moved. Their eyes gazed straight ahead, till one by one they stepped back and not a word was said. The old general was left with his own words echoing in his head. Be there prepared to fight, he said. I have seen the others, and I have discovered that this fight is not worth fighting. No, and I've seen their mothers, and I will no other to follow me where I'm going. So take a shower and shine your shoes. Well, you got no time to lose. You are young man, you must be living. Yeah, take a shower and shine your shoes. You got no time to lose. You are young man, you must be living. Yeah, oh now you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go. Go now, you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go. Go now, you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go now, you are forgiven. Go. Thanks, Keene State.
Thanks, Keene State. Burn bright. Wage peace.
People sleeping in your shoes. There's a warning sign on the road ahead.
Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. It sounds poor people gonna rise up and get their gonna rise up and take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh, while they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds a whisper. And finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no.
I was walking down the street in the town where I was born. I was moving to a beat that I never felt before. So I opened up my eyes and I took a look around. I saw you written across the sky. The revolution starts now. Yeah, the revolution starts now. The revolution starts now. When you rise above your fear, watch here the walls are raining down. The revolution starts here. Where you work and where you play, where you lay your mother down, what you do and what you say. The revolution starts now.
Please welcome to the stage Eli Horowitz. Please welcome to the stage Eli Horowitz.
Keene State, are you feeling the burn? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. I said, Keene State, are you feeling the burn? That is more like it. My name is Eli Horowitz, and I am the campus organizer for Bernie 2020 here at Keene State. You may have seen me dancing for justice and clipboarding for Bernie in the Student Center, or masquerading at Rocky Horror Picture Show. But not too long ago, I was doing those things as a student at Washington University in St. Louis. And that's what college should be, right? Extracurriculars, activism, and, oh right, class. Now, I still remember that one year during finals when I got a message from Student Financial Services notifying me that my Pell Grants were canceled. I was trying to run events ace tests, have a social life, and all of a sudden, if I was gonna stay in school, I needed to come up with an additional $6,000 that I did not have. It was only because of an incredible federally funded program called TRIO, designed to help first-generation and low-income college students succeed, that I got the help that I needed. My TRIO counselor got on the phone and fought for me, eventually discovering that it was a clerical error that had caused me to lose my Pell Grants. If it weren't for TRIO, I would have had to drop out. Bernie Sanders wants to double federal funding for TRIO. Bernie Sanders wants to finally end the equity gap in higher education because everyone deserves to have access to the resources they need to grow. Now, recently, I've started a new chapter in my life, enrolling in school to become a rabbi. Like many of you, I'll have student debt to pay off. Now, just for a show of hands, who here is gonna have student debt by the time they graduate? That is a lot of hands. This is an issue which affects everybody. And Bernie Sanders wants to cancel that debt. So, different question. How many of you, raise your hands, signed up when you walked in to knock doors or phone bank with us this weekend for our 100 Days of Action event? So, here's the thing. If you believe in Bernie, if you believe that housing, healthcare, food, good pay, and yes, education are human rights, we need the number of hands raised for that event to go way, way up. So I'm gonna ask you again, and remember, there are only 100 days until this election, and we're not getting any of them back. Who is gonna come out and knock doors with us this weekend? More hands, I like it. Great. Keep your hands up until someone with a clipboard finds you, please. Keep your hands up if they were raised right then. And if you decide after this rally that you were so inspired by the words of Bernie and the fellow students who are coming up to tell you about their experiences, you are gonna get an email after this event asking you again to sign up for that 100 Days of Action event, and we need you to say yes. Now, if everyone could take their phones out and go ahead and download something from their Play Store called the Burn app. That's B-E-R-N. Take out your phones. I'm watching. That's what we like to hear. And while that's downloading, please feel free to follow our Instagram at Keene for Bernie. Now, if we're gonna win, and we are going to win, we also need you to come out. We will win. 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 Now, as loud as y'all are chanting that at me, I need you to chant it over the phones, because we phone bank in our office at Keene every Wednesday. Who here is coming out next Wednesday? I like it. Now, students, if we are going to win this election, we need you to vote. But not only that, we need you to vote for Bernie if College for All is going to become a reality. We need your help to win here at Keene State. That means we need you to clipboard on campus. We need you to survey your friends about Bernie on the Burn app. We need you to talk in your classes and show up to Students for Bernie meetings at Tuesday to eat free food and plan our actions for the week. And yes, we need you to make your voices heard off campus, just like the rest of our volunteers, by making calls and knocking doors. So what do you say, Keene? When the media says we can't do it, knock more doors. 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 And what do we say when they ignore the fact that we're the largest grassroots movement out here in this election? Knock more doors. Knock more doors. And what do we do when establishment elites and billionaires tell us they can fix it for us? Knock more doors! Knock more doors! That's right. We knock and we knock and we knock till we have bloody knuckles, and every voter in New Hampshire knows that their friends and their neighbors and you are standing with Bernie, and they should too.
Let's all give a warm welcome to Phil Barker.
Good evening. So I'm Phil Barker. I'm a professor of political science here at Keene State, and it is on behalf of the faculty, the staff, the students, the administration, it's my privilege to welcome you all to our beautiful campus. Thank you for coming out tonight. Keene, as you may or may not know, Keene State is the public liberal arts college of New Hampshire, and one of the many goals that we work towards, one of our college-wide learning outcomes, is to encourage civic engagement amongst our students and amongst the community that we are very much a part of. We have undertaken a number of initiatives to do that. One of the things we've done is partnered with the American Democracy Project, which is a nonpartisan affiliation of a little over 200 public colleges and universities who all are working to produce the next generation of engaged and informed citizens. Several of our partner institutions are joining us via live stream tonight. So we have Weber State, St. Louis University, West Georgia, all watching from a distance. So we want to welcome them as well. Real quickly, while I have the mic, I do want to say, as a political scientist, I want to reiterate that these values that the college has embraced, critical thinking, civic engagement, these are incredibly important in a democracy. And these sorts of events, this is why we open our campus to allow the community to engage with candidates as they express their view for the future of our country. I am honored to be a part of the student experience here because our students are really impressive. They take it upon themselves, you'll hear from some of them here in a few minutes, to get involved across the political spectrum, to work to get out the vote. They volunteer, they participate in nonprofit organizations. They're just really impressive. I also want to just, again, say very quickly that this is an important election, but there's also another election coming up this Tuesday. Their local elections are on Tuesday, November 5th, so you should all also make a point to get out and vote for that election as well. Thank you. I will exit now, but thank you again and welcome to Keene State.
Please welcome now Maggie Phillips.
Ooh, there we go. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maggie Phillips. I'm a sophomore here at Keene State College. I want to start by thanking you all for coming out today to see Bernie. And I want to express how incredibly grateful I am for this opportunity to share with you all why I love Bernie as I do, because I really, really do. And when I reflect on the short bit of life I've gotten so far, I realize Bernie has always been fighting for me. So I was born in 2000 to my amazing, wise, beautiful mothers who have shown me time and time again what strength looks like. And a big part of this was watching them reassure my brother and I that we were a real family, because since gay marriage wouldn't be legalized for another decade after I was born, all signs said otherwise. When I was born, only my birth mother's name, Kim, was allowed on my birth certificate, while my other mother, Monica, who was just as much of a parent to me as Kim was not allowed on my birth certificate and had virtually no parental rights to us. For the first 10 years of my life, Monica had to carry around a medical consent form saying that if anything terrible happened, our real mom gave her permission to make any medical decisions for us. When gay marriage finally became legal, I remember feeling ecstatic, but at the same time, I wondered why it had taken so long for people to fight for families like mine. What I didn't know then was that Bernie did fight for families like mine. between starting the first Gay and Lesbian Pride Day in Burlington, Vermont, to voting against the Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, 4 years before I was even born, Bernie fought for us. Okay, fast forward a little bit. When I turned 16 years old, my brother fell victim to the opioid epidemic and started regularly using heroin as a result of unaddressed mental health issues, as many do. And when he was arrested, instead of being rehabilitated, he was dehumanized and alienated. Luckily, my family has employer-sponsored insurance, so when he was released, he was able to access treatment. Unfortunately, many nonviolent drug offenders, like my brother, don't have insurance. And when they finish serving their time, they go right back to using. The system is set up to fail formerly incarcerated people time and time again, creating a cash cow for the CEOs of corporations that run private jails and prisons all over this country. If the US prison population were a city, it would be among the country's 10 largest. That's not a coincidence. I'm very proud to say that today is his 80th day of sobriety. Yeah. Yeah, my family is incredibly lucky. Not all families get the same result. But Bernie has always fought for people like my brother. Between voting against and speaking openly in opposition of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1991 that would have widened the use of the death penalty and ramped up prison sentences. Bernie's Medicare for All bill includes coverage for rehabilitative services. So recovery is not a privilege, but an option for everyone. Bernie fights for them. Okay, so now we've covered my mother's and my brother's, so that just leaves me. Hi, I'm 19. I'm a college student here at Keene State. I majored in political science because I hope that I'm able to dedicate my life to leaving this world a better place than it was when I came into it, like Bernie. Yeah, woo. I will graduate with tens of thousands of dollars of student debt. Rarely does a day pass by where I don't have some sort of momentary existential crisis worrying about what my fate will look like once I receive my diploma. I'm riddled with the question, how will I be able to support myself while I'm making such large and long-term payments? How will I live independently, have children, enjoy my life with this weight looming over my head? I bet you all know where I'm going with this. Bernie fights for me. He knows that education is not only for those whose parents can afford it. His plan to make public colleges, universities, and trade schools free for everyone, and his support for canceling all student debt with a tax on Wall Street transactions shows this. Because if a taxpayer money bailed out Wall Street in 2008, then it's kind of about damn time they returned the favor. Yeah, Bernie doesn't fight for them. Bernie fights for me. Bernie fights for me and my peers and my family and my friends and you and everyone across this country and beyond. Bernie has never compromised his values to satisfy corporations. Bernie fights for the people, whether he's out in picket lines or on the Senate floor. So in the first presidential election that I'm eligible to vote in, I'm proud to say that I'll be casting my ballot for Bernie Sanders. I hope you'll be casting that ballot too. We need to get out and fight for Bernie, the way Bernie fights for us. And that's why I'm so happy to be able to help welcome our next president to the first Bernie's Back rally in New Hampshire. Thank you so much.
Please give a warm welcome to Julia Dzeski.
Hello. Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you for all being here. My name is Julia, and I'm a freshman here at Keene State studying psychology. I grew up in northern New Hampshire. I mean, I could practically see Mount Washington from my house. It is a gorgeous area with leaves more vibrant than you can imagine, falling around a rustic train that rushed past my house every so often. Although Conway was beautiful, it wasn't always easy growing up. A family member of mine suffered from mental illness that was untreated for far too long. When they finally even begun to get the help they needed, instead of being admitted to a psychiatric hospital like they should have, they spent over a week in the ER. They were released before they were ready. Because of this, it turned into a drawn-out experience with consequences that all of us close to the situation struggle with to this day. Last year, as I was finishing up high school, admissions decisions were rolling in, and the winter was just beginning to hint at a thaw. I began to lose another very important person to me because of mental health, and this time it was a close friend. I slowly started to see his mental health deteriorate, yet he and everyone around him kept trying to reach out to get the help he needed. His condition, too, was left untreated for too long until it was allowed to escalate into a horrific situation that tore apart his family. He is now in a psychiatric institute, and I know that if he had gotten the care he needed sooner, I would still have him in my life today. It was back in 2016 when I first heard of Bernie, and even then, despite not being able to vote, I knew I wanted to be involved. I knew from the minute I heard Bernie speak that what he was saying was different from all the other politicians I've heard. And when I looked into it, I realized he'd been saying these same things his whole life. Bernie says, and has always said, mental health care is health care. That mental illness should be addressed by mental health care professionals and not the criminal justice system. If Bernie's Medicare for All plan had been in law when I was a child, I would have had a more stable home. If Bernie's Medicare for All plan had been in law when I was in high school, I would still have my close friend. That's two people I lost to the lacking mental health care system before I was old enough to vote. That's two among countless people in this room, in this state, in this country, have lost to a broken medical system. I wasn't old enough to vote then, but I sure am now. And I know one thing for sure. And I know one thing for sure, that my vote is going to be for Bernie. So please, join me in welcoming the next President of the United States, Bernie Sanders.
Well, let me thank Julia for that beautiful, beautiful introduction. And what Julia is doing, and what people throughout our campaign all over this country are doing, is they're speaking truth. They're talking about the real-life experiences that they go through and that their family and friends go through. And it turns out that Julia is not the only person who has lost close friends to mental illness. It is a national epidemic, which is why, as Julia says, the day is going to come, and you're going to help me make it come sooner than later, when health care becomes a right in this country, not a privilege. And now, let me introduce to you the brains in the family, the next First Lady of the United States, Jane Sanders. Let me thank all of you for coming out. It doesn't look like we can get too many more people in here. This is a great turnout. Let me thank Brad and Chad of Dispatch for their music. Let me thank Professor Phil Barker for his support and remarks. Let me thank Eli Horowitz, our campus organizer. Let me thank Maggie Phillips for her support and remarks. And let me again thank Julia. We are here. We are here. We are here tonight for some serious business. And at the top of that list of serious concerns is the fact that we are going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in the history of this country. This country cannot continue with a president who is a pathological liar, who is running the most corrupt administration in the modern history of this country, who is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot. We need a president who understands that the function of the president is to bring us together, not divide us up. But defeating Trump is not the only thing we have got to do, and that kind of makes our campaign a little bit different than others. Because what we believe is that the time is now to transform this country and create an economy and a government that works for all, not just the 1%. Now, the American people are sick and tired of an economy, and this is really quite incredible. We don't talk about it in Congress, don't talk about it in the media. But here's the reality. 3 people, the 3 wealthiest people in America, own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. 3 people here, 160 million people there. Today, the top 1% earns more wealth than the bottom 92%. And while folks in New Hampshire and in Vermont are working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than at any time since the 1920s, and together we are going to end that obscenity. So let me give a heads up to the top 1%. Yeah, under a Bernie administration, you are going to be paying more in taxes. We are going to end the absurdity of companies like Amazon, which made $11 billion in profit last year, owned by the wealthiest guy in America, not paying 1 nickel in federal income tax. That is an obscenity. They don't pay taxes, and 500,000 Americans are homeless tonight. We are going to be changing national priorities in America. That's for sure. But it is not only a rigged economy in which the very rich are doing better than at any time in modern American history, while half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Do you all know what I mean when I talk about living paycheck to paycheck? Yeah, I gather you do. All right, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. And that means the stress is enormous. It means you worry about what happens if your car breaks down and you can't afford to fix it. You can't get to work, you get fired, you can't take care of your kids. When you live in paycheck to paycheck, you worry that if you get sick, you can't afford to go to the doctor. In the richest country in the history of the world, half of our people should not be living under that kind of stress and anxiety. But it is not just economic inequality. And let me be blunt about this. The current political system is corrupt. Under the current system, exacerbated by this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, billionaires, multimillionaires, corporate executives are able to pour as much money as they want into super PACs. Well, I don't need a super PAC. We are running a campaign of the working class, by the working class, and for the working class of this country. And while some of my competitors in the Democratic primary process are off, sitting in the living rooms of billionaires, what I am proud to tell you is that as of this date, we have received more contributions from more Americans than any candidate, not just in this campaign, but in the history of American politics at this point. And I want to say that I really get emotionally moved when I realize they do analyses of who's contributing. People who are contributing to our campaign are teachers, some of whom are taking money out of their own pockets to get school supplies for their kids. They are workers at Amazon making $15 an hour, workers at Walmart, workers at Target, people who don't have much money. People who don't have much money, but are prepared to help us win this election and transform this country. And I want to thank all of them. Nelson Mandela, who all of you know was one of the great historical figures in recent history, spent much of his adult life at hard labor in prison fighting apartheid in South Africa. Mandela said something that is enormously profound and I think applies to where we are today. He said, and I quote, everything seems impossible until it is done. Do you all understand what that means? Everything seems impossible until it is done. And what that means is all over this country, politicians in Congress and the media telling you, you can't bring about profound change. The best you could get is maybe a little bit of incremental change. Don't think big. Don't have a dream. Don't have a vision of where this country can go, because they say you are powerless people. It is the billionaire class that has the power, not you. And what this campaign is about is turning that axiom on its head. If we as a people don't believe that health care is a human right, we will never achieve Medicare for all. If we don't believe that it is grossly unfair that we have people in this state, in my state, working for 12, 13 bucks an hour, unable to take care of their families, if we don't believe and understand that in the richest country in the history of the world, that is an obscenity, we will never raise the minimum wage to a living wage, 15 bucks an hour. In this campaign, we are surely taking on the corporate elite with all of their greed and all of their corruption. But what is even more important in terms of the obstacles in our way is the limitations of our imagination. So what I am begging you is, do not accept the fact that we cannot make fundamental change in this country and provide a decent quality of life for every man, woman, and child. We can do that. Let's go about doing it. And let me just tell you what the ingredients of a progressive agenda is about. It's not radical stuff. Politics is nothing more than saying, this is where I want to go, and then figuring out how you get there. Where we want to go is to make sure that nobody in this country who works 40 hours a week lives in poverty. 4 years ago, when I came to New Hampshire, I said that we got to raise that minimum wage to at least 15 bucks an hour, and people said, Bernie, you're crazy. That's too radical. It's too extreme. Well, I am happy to tell you that since then, 7 states and the U.S. House of Representatives have voted to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. And we have got to make sure that in America, women receive equal pay for equal work. And we have got to make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder. Four years ago, came to New Hampshire, and I said, you know, the world is changing, the global economy is changing, technology is changing. We have to rethink public education in America. That's what I said. People say, oh, Bernie, again, what is the matter with you? Don't you know it? If you want to make public colleges and universities tuition free, that's, oh my goodness, that can't happen. Well, I am happy to tell you that all over this country, that is exactly what states and cities and communities are doing. Just last month, New Mexico said that any resident in their state can go tuition-free to their public colleges and universities. And again, I want to make the point that this is not a radical idea. Does anyone think making public colleges and universities tuition-free is radical? No. It's common sense. All right, the world has changed. K through 12 is no longer good enough for public education. All right, so what we are going to do is make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And by the way, maybe it's time to cancel all student debt in this country. Now, see, once again, people will say, Bernie, that's a radical idea. It's an expensive proposition, which it is. And I say, and again, think outside of the box. 11 years ago, the U.S. Congress, against my vote, bailed out the crooks on Wall Street. A couple of years ago, Trump and his friends gave over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% in large profitable corporations. Right now, we are providing hundreds of billions of dollars a year in tax breaks and subsidies for the fossil fuel industry. And by the way, we now spend more on the military than the next 10 nations combined. So I kind of think if we could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, we can now ask them to pay a modest tax on Wall Street speculation, which will provide all of the money we need to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and cancel student debt. I have talked to many young people. I've talked to many young people who hesitate getting married, hesitate having kids, hesitate buying a home or even a car because they are paying off those onerous debts every single month. Let us end that. Four years ago, I came to New Hampshire and I said, maybe it might be a good idea if the United States did what every other major country on earth does, and that is guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. Once again, I was told that this is a very radical idea because last year, the healthcare industry, the insurance companies and the drug companies and others made over $100 billion in profits. So this is the system, the dysfunctional, wasteful, and cruel system we now have. And some of the speakers before I got up here talked about some aspects of that. Here's where you're at. Number one, we spend twice as much per person on health care, almost $11,000 a year, as do the people of any other country. So people say, Bernie, how are you going to pay for it? Man, we are already paying for it big time. So what do we get? What do we get for spending twice as much as our Canadian neighbors and other countries that provide health care to all people? This is what you get. You have 87 million people in this country who are uninsured or underinsured. Sometimes politicians forget about the underinsured. But what underinsured means is you may not go to the doctor when you need to go to the doctor because you don't have the out-of-pocket money that you need to deal with your deductible or your copayment. And in America today, we don't talk about it, some 30,000 people die every year because they don't get the medical care they need when they need it. And then on top of that, and I want you to think about this when you think outside of the box. I want you to think about this for a moment. In America now, it's not only that we have so many people uninsured and underinsured, what happens to a working class person who gets diagnosed with cancer or some serious illness and ends up in the hospital for a month? They're going to come out in all likelihood with, 100,000, whatever it may be, in medical bills. How do you pay that when you are a working class person without a strong health insurance program? And the answer is you don't. And the answer is that some 500,000 Americans every year go bankrupt. You got it? They go bankrupt because they cannot pay their medical bills. That's right. Their lives, or they lose their credit scores, get destroyed. They can't borrow money. But think about it. If anybody in this room, God forbid, came down with a serious health issue, you got enough to worry about getting back your feet back on the ground. You got enough to worry about what doctor you're going to go to, what therapy you do, what medicine do you use, a lot to worry about. You should not have to worry about your family going into financial ruin for the crime of what? Being diagnosed with cancer. That is totally disgraceful and not what this country should be about. Now, and on top of all of that, we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You all know that? A couple of months ago, I went to Canada with some people who were diabetic. We bought insulin, same product, for 1/10 the price that it is charged here in America. And meanwhile, 1/4 of the people who use insulin ration their use, which is a horrible thing to have to do. And that is why we are going to take on the greed and the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry. All of you are aware that right now, a number of drug companies who manufacture opioids are being sued for many, many billions of dollars. Understand, and I know this state has been hit particularly hard in terms of the opioid epidemic. But I want you to understand what these companies did. It's one thing when you make a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. When you don't know what your product does. They knew that their product was causing addiction and death. And you know what they did? They hired more salesmen to go out and push that product even more aggressively. That is a criminal activity, and we're going to hold them accountable. And I want you to think again outside of the box. Now, it is not just that we have a president who thinks that climate change is a hoax. That is dangerously pathetic. It is that right now, climate change is causing devastating problems in our country and around the world. There was a report just came out yesterday, and it talks about the fact that before the year 2050, 30 years from now, many cities around the world, major cities, will be underwater, displacing about 150 million people. And I don't have to tell you what's going on in California right now. It's unbelievable that you have wildfires that are raging, where electricity is being turned off, leaving people, to cope as best they can. You're talking about extreme weather disturbances. We're talking about the acidification of the ocean. We're talking about drought all over the world, heat waves all over the world. And I am, given that context, I am proud to tell you that we have introduced a climate change proposal which simply does one thing. It listens to the scientists. Now, maybe some people think it is a radical idea to listen to science. I don't. Now, I've been criticized, like every day, for this proposal because it's a very expensive proposal. It really is. But I want you all to think about it. If we are talking about the survival of planet Earth, you tell me what the alternative is. How much is it worth to make sure that our kids and grandchildren and future generations have a planet that is healthy and habitable? I don't know how you put a price tag on that. This is the future of the planet. And I'm glad to tell you that we are working with folks like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in implementing a Green New Deal, which will create up to 20 million good-paying jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. But when we talk about the greed and corruption of the corporate establishment, I want you to think about this one as well. Drug companies knew that they were pushing a product that kills people. What do you think is going on in the boardrooms of the fossil fuel industry? Does anybody here doubt for a moment that the fossil fuel industry, ExxonMobil and the rest, absolutely knew that the product that they are producing, carbon, is in fact destroying our planet? They knew it, and yet they continue to do it more and more and more. We will hold them accountable for what they are doing. And I want to say a word about another issue that's out there that is front and center in the progressive agenda, and that is the need to bring fundamental reform to a broken and racist criminal justice system. And again, I want you to take a step back and think outside of the box. Ask yourself a simple question. How does it happen that in the United States of America, wealthiest country in the world, we have more people, over 2 million, in jail today than any other country on earth, including China, a communist authoritarian country 4 times our size? How does that happen? How does it happen that the people in jail are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American? That's exactly right. It has a lot to do with institutional racism, but it also has to do with the need for us to be investing in our young people, in jobs and education, not more jails and incarceration. And let me tell you a little bit about what we are going to do in criminal justice. We are going to end private prisons and detention centers. Because corporations should not be profiting from locking up fellow Americans. We're going to do away with minimum sentencing so judges can have some discretion on a case-by-case basis. And let me tell you something else that we have proposed, just did it last week, which is a pretty big deal. We are going to end the so-called war on drugs. And we're going to legalize marijuana in America. Over a period of years, God knows, but certainly it is in the millions of people have had their lives destroyed because they were arrested, because they got a criminal record for possessing or selling marijuana. And I'll tell you something, where this issue really impacted me. I get to Nevada every now and then. If you drive down the roads in Nevada, they have these huge signs, buy marijuana, go here and get your hemp here and do this and do that. And I'm thinking, and think about this, these corporations are selling marijuana in Nevada at the same time as we have thousands of people in jail for doing exactly the same thing. So what we're going to do is not just legalize marijuana, we're going to move forward to expunging the records of those who are arrested. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. And this concept came to me from our friends in the African American community. And they said, good, it's great, you're going to be legalizing marijuana, but everything being equal, you're going to have a handful of large corporations controlling that industry. How about making the case that those people who have suffered the most from the war on drugs get the benefits of legalized marijuana? And I think that is the morally right thing to do. And in our proposal, we provide billions of dollars to help small businesses go forward to be able to get into that business. But it is not just the criminal justice system that needs reform. We have a horrifically broken immigration system in this country. On my first day in office, we will undo all of the racist and ugly things that Donald Trump has done against the immigrant community on day one. And that includes providing, once again, legal protection for the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. It means moving this country forward aggressively to comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the 11 million undocumented. And it also means ending the inhumane policies that now exist at the border. Under our administration, little children will not be snatched from the arms of their mothers. Kids will not be thrown into cages. Families will not be broken up. I know that every person here shares the horror that I experienced when we look at television and there's another mass shooting in America. And I think what we understand is that we cannot let the NRA dictate gun policy in America. The time is now, and I will, as president, tell the NRA that they're not going to develop policy, the American people will. And the good news is that on that issue, whether you come from rural states like Vermont or New Hampshire, you come from urban communities like Detroit or LA, the American people have come together. They understand we have to expand background checks. They understand we have to do away with the gun show loophole. They understand we have to do away with the so-called straw man provision that allows people to legally buy guns and sell them to criminal elements. And increasingly, the American people understand that assault weapons are military-style weapons designed to kill as many human beings as possible in the quickest period of time. We're going to ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. You know, as a United States Senator, I am often on the floor listening to my conservative Republican colleagues talk about how much they believe in small government, how much they believe in getting the government out of the lives of the American people, except when it comes to a woman's right to control her own body. In my view, a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right. We will codify Roe v. Wade, and I promise you, I will never nominate anybody to the Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Brothers and sisters, Donald Trump and his demagogic friends believe that they can win election by dividing us up by the color of our skin, or our religion, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation, or maybe even our gender. That's his political approach to this election. We hold a very different point of view, and it's not only that we believe in a common humanity, whether you're black or white or Latino, Native American, Asian American. It's not only that we believe in that common humanity, we also do not accept what Trump and his friends believe is the function of human life. When you look at somebody like Trump, and it is not just Trump, these other billionaires out there, they believe that greed is good. $1 billion is not enough. They need $5 billion. They need $10 billion. I have talked to these billionaires who come to Washington, D.C. They have more money than they'll spend in 1,000 lifetimes. And they say to Congress, cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, because we want to pay less in taxes. So we have a different perspective on what a good life is about. Trump and his friends, before he even became president, as a businessman, he lied, he stole, he cheated. He was involved in thousands of lawsuits because his word was worthless. He made a contract, he broke the contract, and that is their worldview. Hey, if I can lie, cheat, and steal, and make a lot of money and step on people, wow, what a great life. Well, we have a different view. We have a different view. And our view is that we grow as human beings when we stand with all people, when we stand with workers who are making starvation wages, when we stand with young people who cannot afford to pay off their student debt, when we stand with the future generations who will be hit enormously hard by climate change. Our understanding of life is not just more and more for us, that we grow as human beings when we understand that we are in it together. as the United States Senator, I can tell you that the 1% are enormously powerful. I can tell you that the corporate elite have an endless supply of money, endless, and I use that word advisedly. They will buy all the TV ads they need to fight us with regard to climate change, to fight us with regard to lowering drug prices, Medicare for all. They got the money. But this is what I want you to never forget, that at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And last that I heard, 99% is a heck of a lot bigger number than 1%. Last that I heard is that love and compassion is a much stronger motivating factor than greed and corruption. So brothers and sisters, I'm here today to ask for your help to win here in New Hampshire. I'm asking for your help to win the Democratic nomination. I am asking for your help to enable us to defeat the worst president in American history. But I am asking of you something even more than all of that. Because at the end of the day, no president, no matter how honest and well-intentioned, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. All of you know that real change throughout American history has never taken place from the top on down. It has always taken place from the bottom on up. That is the history. That is the history of the labor movement. It is the history of the civil rights movement. It is the history of the women's movement. It is the history of the gay rights movement. It is the history of the environmental movement. When millions of Americans stand up and they look around them and they say that the status quo is not good enough, that we must move this country to a nation of justice, economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice. When millions of people stand up and are prepared to take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite and their allies, nothing will stop us. Thank you all very much.